XLM is still one of the strongest altcoin picks for this cycle, but also even the long-term outlook for crypto. And that's because Stellar is jam-packed with a ton of utility, and the team behind Stellar is fully focused on everything that must be focused on at this moment in order to be ahead of the curve for what's coming for crypto, which is, of course, Wall Street, institutional players, and also mass adoption of the underlying tech. We know that 2025 has been the year where almost everything around crypto has changed. A lot of people will be saying, well, what exactly has changed in 2025? Because most of these altcoins and most of the price action hasn't really, looked very good because, again, most of these altcoin charts look very similar to XLM's, where we topped somewhere around roughly November all the way through January. And since then, we have yet to make a new high. Well, it's not just about price action. The main thing that we are focused on, changing, especially in 2025, is the fact that number one, crypto is now being accepted across the board. Wall Street institutional players are now embracing crypto. On the same page, we also have regulators really being extremely focused on getting clarity out there for this space. So they are working on regulations. They're passing things like, for example, the Genius Act, which was a game changer. So almost everything around this space has changed in 2025. The biggest thing that we're still focused on, though, is the adoption and utilization of the underlying tech. And Stellar is ready for that moment. Now is the best time to lock in with ITrustCapital, where you could tap into their Roth IRA crypto-designed platform or even their premium custody account that allows you to hold crypto safely and soundly. You never have to worry about if your crypto is going to disappear overnight because this is a closed loop system. Assets are held one-to-one off balance sheet, US-based live client service, institutional custody, tax reporting, and 24/7, 365 buying and selling. I personally love the Roth IRA side of their platform. It's incredible, especially for tax advantaged trading as well as holding crypto. If you guys do want to tap into this, you guys are more than welcome to utilizing my link down in the description below and my promo code as well, where you deposit $1,000 and they give you an additional $100 funding bonus. What are you guys waiting for? Sign up today. You won't regret it. Now, I want to talk a little bit about price action because, we have been charting Stellar for quite some time on the channel. And just looking at the recent sell-off in the space, yes, it was a significant wick. We've talked about it. We ultimately mentioned on multiple occasions how this massive sell-off is technically very bullish for the space. We talked about it on in my midnight video, as well as my video from the other day, where I was talking about how this price action that we are seeing in this market and this massive sell-off that we just witnessed is very similar back to previous Black Swan events that led to the most bullish price action in the space. So I'm not, negative or upset at all about this recent price action because this is going to lead to some of the biggest moves in this market that are very bullish. And XLM is definitely not shy to that. We have been charting XLM, watching XLM for quite some time. The biggest thing right now that I'm mainly watching is for XLM to flip the midline around like 35 cents. After that, we should start to build back to some of these previous highs. Now, I'm not the only one that's been looking into XLM. It feels as though we're starting to see the community around XLM wake up in a big way. I saw this post just the other day on X, and this is from Ali Charts. We have Stellar XLM has a chance to rally towards $1 as long as 30 cents holds. And yes, it does. I feel as though XLM is a very strong altcoin. Beyond the recent price action, I know that everyone will look at this price action and say, oh, this price action is extremely weak. Most altcoins broke through their May highs, yet Stellar actually held the May highs fine. And that's around 30 cents or so. So if we can maintain 30 cents, I do agree with Ali Charts on this. I think that we could easily rally to $1 plus on the chart. I feel like XLM is overdue for a much larger move because, again, XLM has followed XRP very closely. For those that don't know, let's just throw XRP on the chart real quick and look back at the all-time chart. XLM has followed XRP very, very close throughout the years. But what's interesting about this is in the last year, yeah, we had a nice little jump here. However, XRP made a new high compared to its highs back in January. And we have yet to make a new high going off of the highs going back to November, December-ish of last year. So I'm watching for XLM to really kind of catch up and break over those highs. I know that these two charts are very interesting. Yes, we had that big spike. It just was not nearly as close as to, like, for an example, XRP that we are used to, right? Like, even back here, you could see just how XLM has outperformed XRP. This time around, XRP is outperforming XLM, so we are waiting to see if XLM can catch up to XRP and flip those highs going back to roughly like the end of 2024. But beyond that, outside of just price charts, we have been witnessing some pretty big updates around the network itself. Like, for example, the Soroban upgrade, which this is definitely a big one to focus on if you have been paying attention to the DeFi market around XLM. It's starting to expand rapidly, which I'm very excited about. But this is from X Finance Bull. The XLM Soroban upgrade is not just an update, it's a signal. AI coding, 100x payouts, 2x validator strength, and gasless UX are laying the foundation for real DeFi utility. Stellar is engineering at scale. Only the smart money are buying XLM now, and this is what this upgrade entails. Freighter Advanced Authentication, Lab 4.0 upgrades, Contract Copilot AI, Open Zeppelin Token Standards, 5,000 TPS scalability milestone, and then also 100x payout capacity with Merkle trees as well. But this is not the only upgrade that we're seeing. We're also seeing the Whisk upgrade. Higher transaction volumes, low fees, fast confirmation times. Whisk, the latest protocol update, introduced parallel transaction processing to the network. Now Stellar Core can validate one set of transactions while gathering the next. This is a huge change in the network. This is upgrading every key piece from DeFi to just the transaction side of the network. Stellar is constantly innovating. I love to see this. This is incredible to see. And this is also supporting much larger scalable use cases as well, which I'm very excited about. Now, talking about that, one big use case that we have been fully locked in on is payments. Payments regarding to stablecoins. I just saw this post from Antonio Grasso over on X. This is regarding stablecoins have grown from niche crypto assets into a major financial segment, combining blockchain efficiency with price stability to attract both retail and institutional investors. This is the view, the stablecoin industry's growth into 2030. So just looking at this, we have stablecoins could benefit from US banknote reallocation, substitution of international short-term liquidity, and the growing crypto ecosystem as well. And looking at this, we have the 2030 base case and the bull case. The base case here would be 1.9 trillion. The bull case would be 4 trillion. Looking at Citi, they are seeing that the stablecoin market growing 6.7x in their base scenario and 14.2x in their bull scenario. If we're looking at this and we are seeing stablecoins grow this big into 2030, we're talking about 5 years, technically 4 years at this point. If we're thinking about that at a time where stablecoins right now are $293, almost $294 billion, monthly transfer volume closing in on 4 trillion. If we're thinking about this type of value moving over stablecoins alone, these underlying networks could see massive amounts of money and volume moving over these networks every single day. And that's going to make the underlying gas token, and in this case, XLM, very valuable. Stellar right now has about almost $271 million tied back to the stablecoin market cap on the network. And also, stablecoin holders are well over 556 plus K. The growth here around the stablecoin market cap is 25% in just the last 30 days. We could see where most of that volume is coming from. It's usually just around Circle with USDC. We are also starting to see some additional stablecoins growing on Stellar as well, which, we love to see that. And some of these recent updates that we are witnessing around the Stellar ecosystem for stablecoins is also supporting the growth around the Stellar ecosystem for stablecoins, which we'll talk about here in a moment. But let's go over here to this post from Stellar recently, which did say, to move quickly, You need to meet and even set the standard as laws like Genius Act go into effect. Compliance is critical. SDF's Chief Legal and Policy Officer Candice Kelly explains, and this is from the Atlantic Council, the EU and the US set the standards that shape global business models. This is Candice Kelly on payments and stablecoins. The Genius Act is a start, but momentum is critical for responsible innovation. Check this out.
I think the tension is very clear here between the US and EU. Candice, I'm going to turn to you as someone who operates their business globally. How do you see it outside of these two jurisdictions? How do you see the challenges of calibrating to different approaches of innovation and competition?
Well, I think that for me, the EU and the US really do drive that and drive the business models because just like you see in the privacy space, for example, there's a standard and business, to be able to move quickly, you need to meet those standards even if they are lower in other jurisdictions. So I do think that those, the US and the EU are probably the most critical. But obviously there's very different approaches, right? In the US, we're all celebrating the Genius Act. It's one piece of legislation about payment stablecoins, and so there's a lot more to be done. Even as the U.S. continues, I think, to have a more innovation-led and industry-led approach, there's still a lot of work to be done, and the legislative momentum is critical to make sure that we continue to see the industry be able to innovate and do it responsibly.
And yeah, I mean, listen, it's extremely important right now to get these things right. I mean, momentum around stablecoins, I don't feel like it's slowing down at all. In fact, I think that it's accelerating, especially with some of these recent developments around, for an example, the Genius Act. But the EU and the US are starting to really converge on this subject. We also know the UK is getting behind this in a big way. So I feel like we're at that point in time where we're about to witness stablecoins really scale. And I feel like on some of these networks like Stellar, they're going to scale rapidly. And we're already starting to see the market around these stablecoins on Stellar also expand, like with the recent upgrade from Uphold, which was integration alert. We're bringing you YERS on Stellar. Stellar Org enables swift transactions with minimal fees when moving YERS between your Uphold and external Stellar network wallet. YERS is a stablecoin issued by Circle, backed one-to-one with euros and accessible globally. Now, we know on Stellar right now, from Circle, there is two assets on XLM currently, or on Stellar. YERS is one, but it only has $2.2 million compared to like the USDC stablecoin, which is $240, almost $2 million. So I'm watching and seeing if we are going to see that same scale from YERS on Stellar, because if we do, that will be huge. But this is a very good start. Starting to see the market really expand around these stablecoins is a very, very big deal. And also, another stablecoin that is on Stellar, which is Glow Dollar. This has been live on Stellar for over a year. We just witnessed another update from them, which is the Stellar Org community spans the world steadily making the financial system better. Progress is adding up. We're now working with over a dozen Stellar projects embedding philanthropy across the ecosystem. And we could see all of these names that they're working with. There's well over like 10 plus names that they're working with, which is just wild to see. And again, starting to see the ecosystem like this expand around these key stablecoins on these ecosystems, or on these networks, I should say, is so crucial to focus on. Again, when we think about stablecoins themselves, you know, I feel like we're still kind of boxed in. Like, stablecoins are still kind of breaking out into the traditional world. They're still kind of left in the crypto box right now. Once we start to see stablecoins be embedded in the banking industry and in business processes, that's when we start to really watch stablecoins lead to mass adoption. And I feel like at this point, everyone's saying, oh, well, it's stablecoins, it's stablecoins. It doesn't really matter much to XLM, or, you know, it doesn't really matter much to any of these projects. When we think about stablecoins, stablecoins are so big to focus on, because when we start to see adoption happening around stablecoins, it means adoption happening around these networks. It means more use, more volume, more value moving over these networks, which demands the underlying gas token. So anything that's good for Stellar is good for XLM. This is also why I said back here in September of 2023, I was comparing XRP and XLM closely to one another, because, again, a lot of people were talking about which one is better. You know, I talked about how Stellar is accelerating mass adoption through their P2P payment side. because for the most part, XLM is focused on P2P, which is just like person-to-person payments, remittances, things like that. Obviously, finance is developing at rapid pace when it comes to these new technologies. We're starting to see all of the big players tapping into these new technologies. Swift just recently, launched a huge initiative with big banks. The DTCC is now tokenizing, looking into tokenization and DLT in a big way. All of these big institutional players are tapping into the space. At this point, I'm just waiting for something really big to happen where stablecoins are now embedded into the real world. Now, yes, we do have the Genius Act passed. That's great, right? The Genius Act is a great start. We still need clarity. We still need to see all the obstacles removed completely around these big banks and these businesses to actually tap into this tech. Although, yes, we're starting to see some great progress, we still need to see more. But again, the good thing about 2025 is that it's showing us that momentum is picking up. We're starting to see the big changes happening in real time, and they're happening extremely fast too. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing what happens going into 2026. But I really do think that XLM is extremely bullish at this moment because Stellar has been prepared for this moment for years. So that's why I really do think that a lot of these great altcoins, like for an example, XLM, are really prepared for what's about to hit crypto. And right now, looking at the all-time chart, I feel like XLM still is extremely undervalued. I still think that Stellar is overlooked in this space. And going forward, I really do think that XLM is going to show the world why it's one of the strongest altcoin picks, not just for this cycle, but just in general for crypto. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely leave a like, subscribe, so notifications on because more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord down in the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.